Very exciting day at the Presley household. We're going to have our first fire of the season. The first true cold weather, really hard freezing weather, has moved into the southern mountains of Appalachia. So today we're going to build the first fire of this season. Matt's going to show us how he builds a fire in our wood stove here. Of course, everybody has their own ways of doing it. This is just the way that Matt does it. And I guess it's much the same if you were building a fire outside in the woods. You just, yeah.
It is for me.
Yeah, it is for Matt. That's what I was asking you. Matt wasn't looking at me when I was saying that, yeah. He wouldn't be using necessarily kindling. He'd be using branches and twigs and stuff, but still, it'd be the same setup.
Right. Wouldn't be using pallet material because I wouldn't have
Yeah, you wouldn't have the pallet.
That's why
what
I say
meant.
pallets, because it makes good kindling.
Yeah. This is a handy dandy. Matt got this last year. Kindling splitter. Makes it so easy. Makes it so easy, even I can do it.
Well, I bought it.
Yeah, that's why Matt bought it for me and the girls.
This pallet is oak, so it's a little tough. Good work.
And Matt's just screwed the kindling splitter to a stump that he had, or a piece of log, not really a stump. Just for stability, to make it easier. Don't move around on you. I guess you could bolt it to all kinds of things, couldn't you?
Yeah, you could.
Even though Matt used the kindling splitter, he's just going back with an axe and making the pieces smaller. I don't do that. I just use the kindling splitter and that's it, because I'm not as good with an axe as Matt is. I'm not good at all, actually.
Well, some of them had big knots in them and they didn't want to split well on that, so I just did it the old way.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, next step. So now Matt's chopping up some rich pine. It's nature's own fire starter. You can find it free in the woods. We're always on the lookout for it. In some areas they call it pitch pine, lighter knot, lightered wood, lighter pine, pitch. There's just all different things that people call them. In our area though, it's called rich pine. It's very flammable, so it doesn't take much, but it's a really great thing to start your fires with. Makes it super easy, even for somebody like me that's not as good at starting fires as Matt is. We have a video about going and looking for rich pine, so I'll link to that so you can find out more about it. Smells so good. It already, just with Matt cutting on it, smells like Christmas in here.
Smells like turpentine. You just get it down into these little small slivers like this, and it just makes it a whole lot easier to light. I mean, it'll light, the whole stick will light, really. But this just gets, the smaller it is, the easier it is to take flame. The kindling we have is a little bit marginal. It's a little damp because it's been outside and it's oak. So I'm going to do a whole stick of this when normally I wouldn't. Just those slivers is normally all I use. Now I'm going to split a little bit of this. This wood's dry, but I'm going to split it down a little bit smaller because it'll take flame a little bit better the smaller it is. And then I just generally, it's like classifying your wood. You start real small and gradually work up until you get your full-size sticks of stove wood. All right, I've got the little pine shavings inside the stove. Now I'm just going to kind of use the sticks of the same stuff and build up around it a little bit. A lot of people use paper or paper bags or newspaper, and I've done that and sometimes still do, but when I've got this, and I know my kindling's not all that good, I know this will light it without fail. You don't want to burn a whole lot of this in your stove because it has a lot of resin in it, but it's fine to use in this manner just to get a fire started and get one going. It's fine for that. Sometimes I'll stick a bigger piece of wood alongside of it just to create a little bit of height and get a little bit of a gap where I can start stacking my kindling up around it, kind of like so. There's really no needing to be this particular with it. It's just my way, I guess. Fire has to have plenty of oxygen. Has to be able to get air up under it. And this was a good way to get it. Like I say, this kindling's a little damp. I can even feel it handling it with my hands. It's been outside, but it'll burn. Sometimes you might want to get that going good before you put your big wood on, but I've done this enough to where I know it's going to burn. And I'll go ahead and stick a couple of bigger ones on the very top and go ahead and light it and let it do its thing. Once it gets to climbing up through the kindling good, I'll shut the door and let it pull a little bit, and that pulling that air across it gives it just more oxygen and makes it burn even stronger, to be sure to get those bigger ones on top lit. My dampers a little bit, give it a little bit more air. I've got the door cracked, it's not shut all the way. That really lets it pull across that kindling and it'll get it lit, even though it's a little damp. The damper on the stovepipe is also open. I have one of those too, and once the fire gets going real good in the stove, I'll damper that damper in the stovepipe down a little bit too, and that'll close some of the air off and it'll keep from burning your wood so fast. And that noise sounds kind of like a little bit like a freight train. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but that's the draw of this air coming. It's drawing from the top of the chimney, drawing the air out of the basement through these dampers and creating a suction. That's the sound that you hear. It's pulling that oxygen in there to burn the fire. pretty much it.
Matt's got the fire rolling. Feels good, don't it?
Mm-hmm.
Always exciting to have the first fire of the year. By the end of I guess by the time spring's rolling around, it's always nice to not have to build a fire. Forget about it for the summer months, but it always feels really good. It always makes me want to come down here and put me a cot the first time and just sleep down here. I guess I'd get warm.
It's amazing how quick and how hot it actually gets.
Yeah. It's nice. So where did we get this stove?
It come out of my daddy's house when he bought it. He didn't want it, and I wanted it, so when we built this house and had it close to being done, I drove out there and got it and unhooked it, and it's super heavy, and I took that thing up a set of steps. Had to build literally had to plywood over the steps. It was like 4 or 5 steps from a lower level of his basement up into the carport. Covered the steps with plywood, and then put this thing on best I can remember, we put it on a floor jack, like you jack up a car with, so it would roll. And one of us got under it, or 2 of us got under it, and somebody pulled on the handle above it of the jack, and we got that thing pushed up and into the second level, and then rolled it over to the garage door, and then the 3 of us picked that thing up and put it in the bed of the truck. And it probably weighs 400 to 500 pounds. It's super, super, super heavy. Got it on the truck and drove it out here, and then of course the truck I had at that time was too high to get through the garage door. We didn't even have a garage door then, did we?
No, we had a door.
So
yeah.
we just had to
Regular
carry it
house
from
door.
the other end of the house, carry it into here, but we didn't have to go up steps or anything. So it was a level carry, but it was really, really heavy. And I don't want to do that again.
Yeah. And the man that built your daddy's house built the stove. Is that how it went?
I think that's how it went. Best I can remember. It's not a commercially made stove. It's a homemade stove, and it's been in this house for 28 years. So
it's been a good stove. Yeah, been good. So a lot of people, when we talk about the wood stove or we sit around it in videos, they say, well, how does that heat your house? How would that heat your house since it's in the basement? But our basement is unfinished. There's concrete floor, no sheetrock on the walls, no anything. Still the blocks. I mean, it's just an unfinished basement. We never finished it. So the heat just rises straight up through the, what do you call that, the subfloor. There's no insulation or anything, so the heat just rises up through it. And it warms the house. It'll run you out of the house.
Right.
Yeah.
Even on a real cold day.
Yeah.
If you really feed the stove and keep it going real good, once you start it'll take about a half a day for it to begin heating upstairs. But once it starts, then you just got to put a stick or 2 in it here and there, and it will heat the entire upstairs to the point that you start opening windows.
Yeah.
Even on a cold day.
When we first moved in, we had all intentions of finishing the basement, even like plumbed a place for a bathroom. It just never happened, and it never will.
No.
Yeah, at this point, it never will. So, but that's one of the benefits of it, is that we can heat with this stove, and it does really, really good.
And we have other, heat sources too, but
yeah, people ask that too. So we do have like a heat pump if we had to have heat. And we have like a little electrical kind of stove. Is that what you call it, electrical, in the living room?
It's a little surface wall mount,
just a little
electric heater, and it will heat, living room and kitchen really well. And we use it some. And we have the heat pump, but
this heats this is what we.
I like to fool with this, and I like the wood heat,
and what heats the best.
I just use it a lot.
Yeah. In the years ago, we had when the girls were little, we had kerosene. Had a kerosene heater, but it didn't really heat the whole house good either.
No, it did. I mean, it was like a monitor heater. It did the whole front end of the house pretty good.
Yeah.
But as time went on, the kerosene got so expensive. And it ain't that we couldn't pay it, it just made me mad enough I wasn't going to pay it. I took the heater out.
And then we started using the wood stove more and more and more.
Right. And I've still got the heater. I kept it covered up under the steps over there just in case one day, but it's just so expensive, and then you're reliant on them to get it here and what it cost, and it usually took more than a tank each year, and I just got tired of fooling with it. So it was the same price or higher than the electrical heat even is now. So just run the electrical heat and use this to supplement it. That's what we figured we'd do.
If you hear somebody hammering, that's Katie. She's working. We've invaded her space. Her shop is in our basement, so she's not being rude. If anybody's being rude, it's us interrupting her workspace. She's got to work. We always keep this metal pan up here with water in it. If you have a wood stove, you probably do that too, just to put moisture back out into the air. It's the same pan that's been sitting there.
Ever since we got it.
Yeah.
Been there forever.
Been there forever. I think it come from your mama or from your grandmother or somebody.
I think it was my Aunt Ruth's.
Oh, your Aunt Ruth.
My great Aunt Ruth's.
Did she use it for that?
No. I don't think she had a wood stove. It was, I don't know what she used it for, but when I got it, that's what it got put to use for, and used it for that ever since.
A lot of times when we talk about wood too, people ask, well, what do we burn? What's our favorite thing to burn? Probably what we burn the most of is oak with some maple and...
Maple, little oak, maple, a little bit of hickory here and there. Once in a great while, a little bit of locust, but it's hard to come by. There's not much of it left. It's a fantastic wood to heat with. You just got to be careful with it because it burns so hot. But there's not enough of it left to worry with anymore. I don't know what exactly went with it, but it's gone.
The oak is like white oak, red oak. It don't matter, whatever oak.
Right. Yeah. White oak, red oak, post oak, that sort of thing. Yeah. Black oak. Well, of course, black oak is a part of a family of other oaks, but any kind of oak will burn.
Yeah. When we don't really have a place for Matt just to go and cut wood all the time. If we did, that'd be great. But especially in years gone by. But we've always bought wood from one of our friends. He has like a right-of-way or clearing business, so he's constantly got trees that he has to do something with. So he cuts them into, what do you call that?
Just cuts them into rounds or stove wood lengths.
And then he'll bring us, we buy a dump truck load, and he brings it, and Matt has to take it from that into firewood. And that's a more economical way of doing it instead of buying actually cut split wood.
Yeah, if you buy it already split, it's much more expensive.
Yeah.
So we just buy the rounds that's already cut to length, and then I do all the splitting and getting it in.
One time, years ago, I was doing writing about cutting wood on the Blind Pig and the Acorn, and I went and asked Daddy, all about because of course when he was a boy, that's all you had to heat with and cook with was wood, and asking him a bunch of questions about it. And he said, I said, well, what do you think was the best wood? What did people prefer to heat with or to cook with or whatever? And but mostly I was talking about heat and the heat in their house, and he said, well, that all depends on how cold you are. So most people that we know, and us included, don't like to burn pine because of it sets up creosote. But again, if you were freezing, we'd certainly burn some pine. But anyway, I always think that's funny.
Right.
But in those days, they depended on it. Another thing I thought was interesting, especially at this vantage point looking back at Daddy, he told me that his family, all people in those days burned wood. They had to, like I said, to stay warm and to cook and to heat water and for all the things you needed. That was your source. There was no electricity. And he said his family just never managed to actually like cut the wood and split it and do all that. They just had a wood pile, and so every day somebody had to go split wood, and that's just how they did it, and that's how they lived. And everybody can that was their choice. They just never managed to get it stockpiled ahead like people do. And looking back, why I think it's interesting is because that's how Matt and I are. We never managed to we've got all the winter's wood cut and next winter's and that's wonderful. I wish we could be those people, but we're never probably going to be those.
We probably could be now.
Maybe, I don't know if we could be or not
But
now.
there's no way prior to now that we could. I mean, you just having to work all the time at something else, and just never got the time. When I do split it, I'll split as much as I can get split, and there's a pretty good pile right there from last year. That's all last year's wood.
And we have a lot outside.
And we have a lot outside that's split.
But we don't have it all split by no means. So again, everybody has to do what works for them. But looking back, I think that's interesting. Pap said that about his family, and me and Matt didn't set out to do that, but that's kind of what we've done. Of course, we've got it much easier. We don't have to cut wood to build a fire to cook, for me to cook, or to boil water or anything like that. We've got it much easier. So much easier than that. But
yep.
It didn't get as cold last night as they said it was going to, but I guess it's not got very warm today. Stayed in the 40s. So I guess tonight will be the night that we have our first really hard freeze. It didn't really get cold enough to freeze last night. So really nice though to have the heat. You could just come down here and cook me some supper, couldn't you?
Good.
And just have to sit here the rest of the day.
I couldn't do it. I'm burning alive.
Matt's already hot. It's feeling good. I do need to change sides though. That's the thing about wood stoves. You gotta bake one side and then turn and bake the other side so you're even. We hope you enjoyed coming along with us today for our first fire of the year. Hope you enjoyed seeing how Matt built his fire, how he builds fires. He says he does it much the same outside, except wouldn't be using kindling like that. He'd be using stuff from the woods. But I guess you were talking about the different sizes.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just use what you find in the woods. It's not a pallet or any kind of dimensional lumber. It's just wood from the woods. But it's the same concept.
Yeah, and we'll try to do a video like that. Maybe Matt can do that one day. Take us up in the woods and build a fire outside. And maybe make me some hot chocolate, something like that. As always, we're always thankful when you stop by to help us celebrate Appalachia. Okay, let's try a thumbnail and then we'll be done.
Thumbnail.
Oh.
Your last one. Make it count. Smile big.
You can hold that out here somehow. Or hold your axe. I don't know.
I've been done making noise, but I'm running a crap show over here. I ain't getting none of my measurements right. Having to do it again.
Oh, you're fine. Matt quit. Just hold it. I don't guess I can hold it. There you go. Go ahead. Alright, that's good.